Auzubillahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Shoaib Khan and welcome to Maxafter.com. Today's tutorial is about MentalRay in 3ds Studio Max. In this tutorial we'll be covering texture mapping, lighting and rendering in MentalRay. Basically this is what we'll be doing. Before we start the tutorial, I would recommend a book that a friend of mine has written. His name is Jamie Caduso, and Jamie and I were in the university together, and he wrote this book, and this book covers almost all the topics related to MentalRay. If you can afford it, then definitely go for it. This tutorial comes with this scene, so you can open the scene as well and start working with me. It's a very simple scene. So basically we'll start with the texture mapping first, and before that we need to of course load MentalRay. So for that you need to go to the rendering and render. You come into the common panel, scroll it down. Here you come to assign renderer. So open this, and in assign renderer you go to production, and if you click this button here, it'll give you the option to load MentalRay renderer. So you click here and say OK. So now basically you've got MentalRays loaded. So when you render it, you'll see that it renders in bucket. Let's close this for now. Okay, the next thing is I want to tell you about the unit system as well. When you're doing a professional job, then you have to know what unit system you're working with, and for that you need to go to customize. In customize unit setup, but we'll work in this generic unit in this project. For future reference, then you have to go and click here metric. So if you're working with meters, go and work in meters, or millimeters, then if you go for millimeters. So mostly it is meters. So it depends on the job that you're doing. So this is also an important thing because the settings of the light and shadows and everything change with this. So, but for now we'll just go with generic units. So click here and say OK. The next thing is we'll go to Material Editor. And in Material Editor, as you can see, it's all normal shaders. To load up the MentalRay shaders, what you need to do is to select the first one and go to Standard. In Standard, you just load up Architecture and Design. Double click here. It loads up Architecture and Design shader. So now here you've got the list of templates that you want to use. For example, it has got matte, it has got pearl, glossies, wood textures, and everything is already made up. Go and click it and start working with it. First thing is you need to create material for the wall. So what we do is just write wall here. So for the wall we'll just come and select a template which is pearl. If you highlight pearl, you also get the information here that says create soft blurry reflections without affecting colors or maps. So we'll go pearl finish and we click here, and also we write here as well pearl finish. It's a good way to remember what template you have applied, so it's best to write it here. Otherwise if you just write wall, then you probably won't notice that what shader you have applied. So we change the color here first. Let's say change to just a light color. As you can see, the rest is diffuse color, roughness. Leave everything as it is. Then we select our walls. For selecting all the walls, you come in here and select objects. So you just click the walls here. This wall, door wall, and window as well. So when you select all these, so you can see that all the walls are selected now. So what we do is just we apply the material by clicking here. Okay, so we have applied the wall material here. So for a quick render, we just go and click here. The material is applied to the wall. First we'll cover the texture and mapping, and then we'll go to the rendering. So the next thing is we apply the material for the sofa, which is it's a leather sofa. So we just go here and select the next one, and right here sofa. We do the same, go to Standard and Arch Design Material. So when you come here, it gives you the template. For this, we'll go and use leather. Click leather. Again, we'll write here leather, so we know that we applied the leather template to it. And now all you need to do is just apply it. If you render it, see how it looks. You'll see that it's a bit dark because there are no lights here, so leave it as it is for now. We do the tweaking when we introduce the light. So right now we're just basically loading up the templates. If you can see that this table has got a glass, and then the frame is of course metal. So if you come here and group and open, it'll select the glass table. So now for the glass material, what we do is again go to Arch and Design and write glass. We select a template here. You come down to glass thin geometry. Whatever you highlight, you can also see the description in this area. So for this we'll go to glass thin geometry, and it has got a blue color as well. So what we just do is we click here and apply to the table. And also, as you can see, the windows, you've got a glass panel here as well, so we'll apply the same material to the window as well. And now we come to the structure of the table. So we'll select the next available shader, and we go to standard again, arch and design, select a template which is chrome. So again, so we write table and we apply chrome to it. So we just select the table structure and we just apply chrome to it. And the next thing is this ball here. Again, we just go to arch and design. In here we choose a template which is copper, and we write here copper and we just apply it. This glass here as well, delete this one, we don't need it. So before the carpet, let's apply the floor. Select the next shader, again arch and design material, and we'll write it floor, and we select a template. We'll go to varnished wood, right, apply it to the floor, and we show the material. So let's fix the material as well. Right now it's not properly fixed, so you go inside the material, you just do it manually instead of doing it through UV mapping. Okay, the next thing is we'll apply the material to the carpet. I hope you are following me, because I think it's very easy and straightforward. It's just loading up the templates. We'll be tweaking the templates later when we add the lights and during the rendering. Okay, so the next is again the same system. We'll go through the standard and arch and design. We'll load up the template for carpet. Let's load up a matte finish for this, and right here a rug matte finish. Right, we load up the material for the rug. Just go to bitmap, and we've got our rug material here, and we just apply it to the carpet here and issue material. And let's just change this view to perspective so that we know what we're doing. And as you can see that the carpet is applied, and let's also apply UVW mapping to it. Scroll down and say bitmap fit, so it proportionally fits the bitmap according to the size of the material. So what we can do, we just right click and isolate selection. So in this way we can work only with the carpet. Okay, as you can see that the carpet is chopped up here, so what we can do, we just go to the chamfer box and we just fix the width and the length. So as you can see now it's properly fixed. Okay, also what we do is we go back here and we'll apply a bump map to it. We just copy the same material and we go down and we apply it to paste instance. So we applied our rug material as well, so we come out of the isolation mode, just go back to our camera view. So now we've applied all the materials. What we do is we just go and render and see how it looks. So it's a bit raw right now because of course we have not added the lights and no global illumination or anything. But the basic is we just applied texture to it. Okay, let's fix the wooden floor map here. It's a bit big. So we come to the wooden floor and tiling, and we make it smaller. Probably that's fine. You go back, and as you saw that there was a bit of reflection there. You can also see some of the carpet, is not properly applied as well. And let's cut down the reflection. If you want to cut down the reflection to 0, you just go and say 0, and there'll be no reflectivity on the floor. But we want a bit of reflection there, so we go to 0.5. Then if you render, you'll see that the reflection is a bit less. Also, let's go back to the carpet. Just reduced. Go to perspective view and go close to the carpet here. So you can see there's this white patch here. So let's just fix this and that. Okay, go back to our camera view. Okay, when you come to the sofa, as you can see, the sofa you can't see the sofa properly because they have checked the highlight plus FG. What it does is basically when you take the cursor on top of it, it says that disables reflections and shows only highlights. So we want to see a bit of the reflection on the sofa, so we just uncheck it, and when you render it now, you can see the reflection on the sofa as well. So the next step is let's introduce the lights. So we close this and we come to the top viewport. As you know, our window is here somewhere. So what we do is we go to the lights, and in lights we say MentalRay area spot. So of course we go with the according to the natural light, because the window is here, so the light has to come in from outside, and it's a day. So what we can do is we just put a light here, and we'll move it up. And basically what we're doing here is we're just fixing the light. And you can also, what you can do is see through the light. If you right click here and views, and you say MR area spot, so this is what's happening right now. So you can just fix the light here, and as you can see that this is the window, and this is how it's basically we are kind of looking through the light. So when you go back to our camera view, so as you can see is now the light coming in. If you select the light, and this light of course is coming from outside, so this light has to be a bit blue in color because of the sky color. So that's why I'll change the color of this light to sky color. Okay, let's also change the intensity of this light to 1.5, and then we introduce the next light, which is MR Omni, which will be of course inside the scene. Let's just apply it from the top, MR Omni, and we just put it there. So you can see it's on the floor, so we just move it up here somewhere. Okay, and we also change the multiplier to 0.5, and this is, we change to white color. Right, also save your project. Okay, since we have added the lights here, so let's just render the scene and see how it looks. So as you can see, it's already shaping up. The next thing is the final gather, the rendering part, which is very important. I want your full concentration here because this is the most important part of the tutorial. So let's close this and move on towards the rendering panel. For that we go to the rendering panel here. We leave everything as it is, and we come to indirect illumination. So here what we do is we just turn on enable final gather. So right now it's custom. So what we do is the first thing is just come here and change it to draft, and then when you render you'll see how it looks. So as you can see that by applying just a normal draft mode, it has already changed the whole scene. So imagine when you go to the higher settings, it will completely transform the scenes. But before that, let's go and understand the whole concept of this panel here. So we'll be mainly using final gather here. So basically what final gather does is when you enable the final gather, it shoots up final gather points into the scene, and from each point it shoots up rays into the whole scene. Those rays then measure the brightness of the whole scene. So basically this is how the final gather works. But if another best way of seeing the final gather point is you go to processing, scroll down to diagnostic, and you say enable, and then you click final gather, and then when you render, then you'll see the final gather points. So the green dots here, so each final gather point is displayed as the green dot that you see here on the scene. Let's open a simple scene and try to understand how this whole thing works. So this is just a normal scene. So what we do is just go again to the render scene, and we go to processing again, and we just turn on the final gather point here. So we go to indirect illumination, and so you go to draft mode, and now if you render you'll see. Okay, we come back to the panel here. Multipliers, of course, it's basically like a light. If you turn it down it becomes dark, and if you turn it up it becomes bright. So right now we leave it at 1. Okay, the next thing is the initial final gather point density. Basically this is the density of the final gather points grid, which covers the entire image. Also specifies the distance between these green dots that you see here. Right now it's 0.1, and if you increase it to, let's say, 1 and render, and then you'll see exactly what I mean. So now as you can see that when we increase the final gather point, space between the dots become closer and closer. So it gives of course a smooth results as well. Maximum you can go up to, I think 4 is good, pretty good. Usually 1 is fine as well. So when you increase it, of course, the rendering time increases as well. Okay, the next thing is rays per FG point. Like I told you before about the rays, that each dot here that you see, they shoot up and off rays into the scene. Using a low value is faster but can generate noise, and a higher value can reduce or eliminate noise but takes longer to compute. Of course, when you change it right now it's 50, but if you go to very high it becomes like 10,000. So usually medium is fine, 250 is fine. Depending on the scene as well. So you go back to the draft mode, and the next thing is interpolate over number of FG points. So interpolate over number of FG points actually determines how many FG points are used to compute the final result. So also when you turn it very high, it becomes up to 100. So also gives smooth results, So the next thing is diffuse bounces. This is also very important, but when you use it, to let's say 5 or 1, it also takes longer to compute. But this is very important, because what it does is it bounces the light from one object to another. So the whole room is like bouncing the light, and so hence it gives better details. So this was basically the main panel of Final Gather. I hope you understood the basics of this Final Gather, how it works. Now let's go back to our main scene and use the Final Gather settings there. Let's open the render scene. You go to renderer here and turn on the jitter as well. Jitter is usually good for animations. Let's turn it on for this scene as well. Okay, let's just keep it a bit low for now, and then we see how it looks. Then we'll gradually move it up, according to the render. Okay, let's go to processing, and don't forget to turn off the diagnostics. Otherwise it will show the green dots. Okay, let's go back to common, and scene is right now. Let's make a small scene. Go back to indirect illumination. Let's just first change it to low and see how it looks, and change this back to 0. And now just render and see how it looks. So as you can see that with low setting it looks a bit better. But let's first make few changes. What we need to do is, as you can see, the carpet, it looks a bit blurry. So what you do is just go to the material shader. You go to carpet, and into the carpet material. The blur is 1. So let's change this to 0.3. So it becomes less blurry, and as you can see that the wall hasn't got the connecting shadows. So what we need to do is go to the material or wall, and in this shader we have introduced a very powerful method of connecting shadows. So for that we go to special effects, we turn on this ambient occlusion and also round corners. When you render it round corners, you need to see the distance of how much round corners. I think 6.35 is a bit too much. Let's just change it to 1 and see how it looks. It gives nice soft shadows in the edges where the wall ends here with the floor. It'll give nice shadows. All corners, they become a bit beveled and round. So this is also very powerful to render and see how it looks. Now if you see the render here and match it with the previous one, you can see the corners. The corners here, as you can see, they are beveled. The bevel, as you can see here as well, they've got connecting shadows. When you render it in high quality, they look very nice, but at the moment they are a bit big. The bevel is a bit big because I think the distance. Okay, we need to change the round corners to at least 0.2, to get some good realistic effects. And also let's change the light as well a little bit. Come here and remove the light, and we click this camera view, and again let's render and see how it looks. Now if you see the difference here, this is without the special effects, the round corners, and this is with the round corners. You can see nice bevel here and soft edges here. So remember that right now is we're just using very basic templates of the material shaders, So that's why I'm going through just the basics, so that you understand how this whole thing works. Now that we see that most of the stuff is it looks fine, so what we do is we just go and do a final render. Okay, for the final render you need to of course use some high settings, but when you use high settings, what happens is, let's say if you use very high setting, all these values, they go up. and it takes a very long time for your computer, to compute and render the scene, because it computes the file gather points. So one easy way out for that is you read and write file gather first. You render a small size file, a draft file, and then you save file gather. Once after saving the file gather, and then you just increase the settings, and then you render the final scene. So it doesn't compute the file gather, and it just directly goes and starts rendering. I'll explain how it works. So for that, you just go to draft. The size is already small, so it's alright. In draft, leave it draft as well. Just click here, file gather map here, and select this and save a file gather FG, wherever your folder is, you save it, and just select this, leave this as it is, because right now what we're doing, we're just saving a file gather. Then we go to renderer and change this to 1:4 is fine, and box is fine. So now we come back to indirect illumination and we just say render. So as you can see, that it's computing now. So as soon as it finishes computing, you don't need to carry on, you just cancel, because it has already computed the file gather points, and turn this off. So now it has saved the file gather. So now what you do is, this time you check this button, read only, as well, and now you can increase all your settings. Let's say change this to 1, and from draft, say you want to go up to high. Let's say you want to go to renderer and change this to 4 and 64, which is pretty high settings, and also go to Mitchell. And now when you go back, and now you can see that you've got high settings. So if you go to common, and let's say we just change this to a bit bigger as well. So now let's just be sure to check both of these, read only and read and write, and just now if you press render, you'll see that this scene has gone straight into rendering. Otherwise, you see that it first computes the file gather, and then afterwards then it starts rendering. So now we have saved that time by just computing the file gather points. Now as you can see that this scene's been rendered pretty quick. That's like in 5 minutes you have rendered a scene with high settings. This is just because we have saved the file gather. Otherwise this scene would have taken like 10-15 minutes. And you can use the same method for animation as well. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. And once again, thank you for visiting Maxafter.com. I'll see you guys next time. My name is Shoaib Khan. Assalamu alaikum.